She will offer our invocation, and Councilman Clough, he will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Father in heaven, we're grateful for this opportunity to meet as city and city council and those who serve us so well. We're grateful for their service and the opportunity we have to learn from them and to deliberate carefully the things that will impact the city and the citizens in the city. Father, we ask for the inspiration. We ask to be gracious and respectful of one another, that we might seek solutions to issues that face our city and the people in it. Be with us, Father, again, with our families as we are from them. Be with us in our decisions. And we do say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Move on to item 1, approval of our agenda for tonight.
Mayor, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the agenda as outlined tonight.
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
Turek, aye.
Bellis and I.
Ranger, aye.
Clough, aye.
Ward, aye.
Thank you. That is approved. Move on to announcements. I'd like to introduce our coming tonight. Well, I'm going to introduce them anyway, even though they're not here. They had our princess competition. Was a couple of weeks ago, was it, Denise? And the results were our new princess for this year will be Sabrina Johansson. Her first counselor will be her first assistant will be Charlie Holt. Her second assistant will be Liesl Swift, and Miss Spirit is Ashton Thane. So we welcome them into the royalty. We do offer them a little scholarship money, so it's kind of fun to be able to offer that to them in this scholarship pageant. So we look forward to working with them throughout the year. And we usually like to keep them busy. So congratulations. Move on to item 3, declaration of abstentions and conflicts.
Mayor, I'm going to go ahead and step off the council for item.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else?
Well, and pardon me, and 9A.
And 9A.
You amend that.
Right. Okay. We'll move on to item 4, our consent agenda, to item A, approve the minutes from the city council meetings of 4/9/19 and 4/10/19, to approve final plats for Escondido at Sienna Hills, Phase 1, located approximately 900 North, 2200 East, and in Holdings, Jim Raines. And item 2 on there, consideration to approve the final plat for Southern Vistas Phase 1, located approximately 4200 South Washington Fields Road, applicant Mark Newman. And then 2 special events. A special event for Girls on the Run, Southern Utah, to be held 5/18/19 and 12/7/19, the Sullivan Virgin River Soccer Park, applicant Melissa Miller. And the consideration to approve a special event for Young Women Camp fundraiser dinner, be held May 11th, 2019 at the Pineview Park, applicant Diana Taylor. Any questions or comments on our consent agenda?
I just had a quick question for Drew on 4B. Yeah,
Final plats?
I just have a quick question on why the roadway's kind of cut like that. Are the trails that come into it, and that's why?
Let me find out which one. Which subdivision is that? Can you just help me real
Oh,
quick?
that's Escondido.
Okay. Grab that one here. What I'll do is disaster. All right. Which button do I push at the bottom? You helped me with that last time. In my office, to pull up tonight's agenda.
You're welcome. Just north and south of the roundabout there where it kind of has a serration.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how to bring it up either. That's what it's, okay, that's fine. That's all, that was the only question I had, why the alignment was like that. Okay. The only question I had.
Sorry about that. I'm finally.
You still needed to pull it up.
Yeah, we'll. Okay.
You can see it now. If you blow up on the roundabout.
Okay, now what was the question? That inset there, is that?
No, just why, I mean, on the bottom, you've got Pleasant Valley Lane that comes in, and then there's like a serration on either side, and then it goes into the roundabout. I was just curious why it was like that.
Okay,
But-
so the
but-
answer to that, okay, that's,
Yeah, Jim satisfied my question.
okay.
Sorry, can you repeat the answer though?
It was a turnout for the subdivision.
How would that work?
Mr. Jim, you want to come up and explain what you're,
Zoom out, I thought you were asking about this down here. This is what you're asking for, that's the turnout.
No, I was
you're asking about these?
Yeah.
Because we go into a wider common area. That's why it's wider, that one has to be wide out coming to with across the wide road right there, it's landscape. That's a private road.
That, you understand where that is? Yeah, so it's. Okay.
All right. Nothing else. I entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move approval of the consent agenda that you've gone over with us for April the 24th, 2019.
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
Ward eye. Clef eye.
Granger, aye.
Ellis and I. Rick, aye.
Thank you. Those are approved. Item 5, Dixie Regional Medical Center. Every year we have the opportunity to have them come up and talk about what's going on over there. Mitch, you've changed a little bit. So, this is Amy Christensen.
Yes,
Council,
thank you for allowing us to be here today. It's our pleasure to spend a few minutes on your agenda. So, I don't know, are you going to pull it up on the side so you can see some of the slides? I hope so. Yeah, so my name is Amy Christensen. I'm the nurse administrator at the hospital. I've been with Intermountain for 27 years and down here at Dixie Regional for about 11. So quite a long time, and I plan to be here a lot longer. I love the area and it's beautiful. Just to start out, we have had some recent recognitions that we wanted to highlight in the last year. There's surveys that are sent out every year to different health systems. And this year, Intermountain Healthcare got recognized for its innovation for its being a thought leader on healthcare transformation and some of the things that we're doing related to focusing on population health, working on services to serve patients in the home, and making our services, healthcare cheaper, more affordable. Some of the local
So
things we wanted to
Do
highlight.
you, do you mind if we ask questions as you go along? Or I could let you finish.
However you'd like to do it.
Just the
Yeah.
population health, I'd be interested for you to explain a little more about that.
Sure. So some of the initiatives are working on we have two arms now related into our restructure. We have the specialty based care, which is all the hospital acute care services, and we have community based care. From the very top of the organization, the community based side works on everything from our Connect Care, which is our in-home service. You can dial up, and receive a consultation for $49 or less. And if they aren't able to help you, you don't pay if you end up having to go in anyway. We have things like we're working on a hospital at home initiative where we're actually building services so that we can take care of more patients outside the hospital that require more services. It would be more advanced than what you would see kind of in a home care setting right now. Population health everywhere, everything from keeping patients healthier. We have our Live Well Center that we're very proud of, and we're focusing on, we really want to close our hospital doors. That's the ultimate mission. We know that will never happen down the road. We're all aging, and we all have the things that we struggle with genetic-wise and behaviorally, but that's our goal. So there's a lot of initiatives. We could spend a lot of time on that, but just lots of work going on to try to lower costs. In addition to that, I don't know if you've heard about the generic drug company that Intermountain started called Civica. They're really, we're fighting, we have a lot of partners, other health systems that have joined to work on that initiative with us. And our goal, we have 10 drugs that are getting ready to be released in order to keep costs down. We just feel like the drug manufacturers have us backed against the wall a lot of the times for these drugs, and they can jack up the prices. So lots of good things happening in that realm. Again, our Access Center is another one of those great things that we're doing. It's a crisis intervention for 24-hour care. A lot of times people just need to come in, work with a crisis worker actively, and they can go home within that time frame, within that 24 hours, and they're through their crisis. So it's really been successful. We're really excited about that. Other great things that we're doing, TAVR program is our transaortic valve replacement, where you can go up through the groin and do that. We're actually doing it through a transaxillary or a subclavian type procedure. That's only done in a few places. We're excited about offering that. That allows additional people to have that surgery, and it's not as invasive, and people go home quick. So lower cost option. Intraoperative MRI, we're only one of 2 suites in the entire state. They're able to do that intraoperative MRI for procedures to look at tumors, cancer tumors, when they're in the middle of the surgery. Really amazing stuff. Our NICU best practices have been recognized nationally. I don't know if you've heard about our POKE initiative with Dr. Rideout and his team, but they've been recognized in modern healthcare and in health leaders, and recently by the advisory board for reducing the cost. What they do is try to avoid any care that they don't need to do. Let's just give the baby what they need, but not more than what they need. Don't poke them, don't do extra labs. It's pretty exciting work, and it's groundbreaking work. So more to come on that. That's spreading throughout our system and throughout the country. So that's really great stuff. We talked about the Connect Care. Again, that's the ability to just call up and get on a phone, an iPad, be able to see a doctor. And like I said, if they aren't able to help you, then they don't charge you. And then our Live Well Center, we talked about that. So mission driven. I think everybody knows the mission of Intermountain Healthcare. If you lived here very long, some of the great things we do are able to provide services that we wouldn't have in the community. They're not money makers, but because our mission is to serve the community, we provide things like pediatric care. We provide things like behavioral services, behavioral health, and some of the trauma services even aren't as conducive to revenue, but we provide those services to save lives. So, like I talked about, our mission is to close our doors to the hospital, right? To keep people healthy. Ultimately, we're trying to do education in the community. We have community initiatives around depression. Some of the things we do a needs assessment every year, and what are the most prevalent things that we need to focus on. Depression is a big one. Diabetes is a big one. Blood pressure is a big one. Those are types of things that we try to get out and educate people on. And as you know, our governing board are all volunteer members, community members, business leaders, all volunteer their time. Brian Chavez is our current chair, and I don't think he was able to make it tonight, but he is the president of Heritage Bank and very dedicated to the work, and spends many hours every month to making sure that we advance our mission and do the things that we need for this community. Our economic impact, I'll just kind of turn to the sheet that you have. We update this every year relative to key indicators. We continue to see growth in the community with volumes despite our challenges and efforts of trying to, again, keep people out of the hospital. We do have growth in our community, as you know, and some of the decrease, the shift in kind of the trends that we're seeing is that we're moving patients from our inpatient to outpatient services. So things that might have been cared for in an inpatient way now maybe are same day or they're going home sooner. So they're outpatient services now. And that's the trend nationally that we're seeing. The more that we can do quickly in the hospital, stabilize and take care of some things that might need to be taken care of afterward with some home health or some other visits is a less expensive way to do care. We have a lot of employees that we hire every year. That's, again, a growth factor, and then just a little bit of the turnover rate. And then I want to highlight our volunteer hours and our charity care. So every year we give a substantial amount of charity care. This last year in 2018, it was nearly 36 million, just under 36 million to the community. And that doesn't include our bad debt that we write off. On the back of that sheet, you can see some of the awards and recognitions that we received for Dixie Regional Medical Center. We're not going to go into all of those, but pretty proud of the things that we do. And we're never going to settle for being average or even where we're at as far as our accomplishments. We're going to continually strive to be the best that we can be and the best in the nation. All right, just to highlight again, we love our caregivers. We love our community members. We love our caregivers. We have over 4,000 that work for us now, and you can see that our nursing workforce, our physician workforce, everything is just growing. And of course, we love our volunteers. Our economic contribution, again, I kind of talked about the charity care being provided, but in addition to that, we have a lot of jobs that we provide, 3,300. Job earnings, 190 million, and over 500 million of the GDP for Washington County. In addition to that, we love doing education and continuing to grow our workforce. So we provided $630,000 for educational grants for new RNs and train nursing students, of course, in our facilities. We provide diversity scholarships, over $170,000 this past year or for the last 3 years, and tuition reimbursement for our own caregivers through a great program. I went through that myself, so it's very helpful. Again, philanthropy is everywhere. We had over $15 million this last for our expansion project that just finished. Cost to Intermountain Healthcare was $300 million for that expansion, over 1 million square feet on the campus now. And we are so grateful for our community members, and over 15 million that what we were able to raise for that expansion. So amazing things that we can do. As you probably know some of these people in our community and know their stories, but couldn't do it without having the community support that we do. And that's it. What questions do you have for us?
Just appreciate the update every year to see what you guys are doing. You're doing amazing things over there on campus.
Right, and like I said, we're never status quo. We want to be the best. Our goal right now is to strive for. We're just about to the top decile for patient experience in the country, meaning that we get the best care and get the best results that way. So we're continually striving to do more.
I can say as a father of 6 and taking care of an aged grandma, we spent lots of time there in the past month and a half. So great
Oh,
services, great atmosphere, well
good.
done. Recommend it to anybody. Drop on by. But thank you. It's really well done. and
Right,
it
if
really
you have to
feels
have
good.
be in the hospital, right? It's a good
No.
place to be.
Thank you, Amy, very
Thank
much.
you.
I appreciate your time. Terry,
Thank you.
for coming.
Yes.
Look forward to Christmas with the mayors and then coming back again next year.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You bet. See you. All right, move on to item 6, project consideration to approve the Main Street drainage project cross-section. Terry. You're all right. Mike Shaw.
Thank you, Mayor. This is, I guess, is continuation from our last meeting. Council wanted a little more time to discuss this and maybe talk with some citizens. So I'll just briefly go over that. We presented 5 different options to the council. Option 1, option 2, option 3, option 4, option 5. We had a public open house where we took public comment and met with citizens on this project. We actually had the majority of the people that came to the meeting was in favor of the option 5, and the option 1 came in second, and option 3 had a single vote for that one. So that I ask any questions from the council on this.
I realize we're in the highly preliminary stages here, but would it be the city's intention to actually plant in the, I think, what is it, 2 3/4 feet of right of way that's left on the outside of the curb? So you're showing bushes and shrubs there. Is that something that you're thinking is part of the design, calming measures?
That on the shoulder itself, off the backside of the sidewalk, not necessarily. I mean, that's something we can look at, but this is a concept.
Right.
We really haven't gotten into it. We definitely would do the landscaping in the median, the planter boxes. We probably would look at some of those areas that definitely along the shoulders, but a lot of it's going to depend on the existing yards and what the property owners have in their existing areas.
But yeah, I just wondered, there was some thinking as far as to make a uniform approach through.
Right. I don't really know right now. It definitely would be graded off. It would be, this area would be used to tie it back into the existing properties. But as we get going down and design whichever options picked, we'd also still be coming back to council to get input on different things, and this would probably be one of them.
So that was one of my other questions is, so walk me through that process. When will be the next time that council will see something regarding this project?
Probably when we're about 60% on design. We'll have a really good idea of what we need to build, the layout of what we need to build. At 60% is when we'd actually get in and get our final, any kind of design changes. That's the time we would bring that in.
And then costing, when would that come to us?
Costing, I've got some very, very preliminary numbers right now, but costing will come in at probably around 60% when we'll know a really good cost for the project.
During the 2 weeks that we extended the discussion, were you able to pick up any significant information?
We actually received one more survey back into our office, but they didn't even choose an option on that survey.
The main things in the 2 weeks that I appreciate talking with you more on this was when we first opened this up, one of our concerns was engineering according to our need. And with the flood measures that we put above the freeway, I remember from the report, there was something to the effect of 240 cubic feet per second that came on the road during that last flood event that was on the surface. And we made engineering changes north of the freeway with retention basins and everything else. I've noticed that most of these plans call for flow, flood measures so they can handle a flood that we're talking 2 to 3 times the amount of what happened in those events. What is the intention and reasoning for that?
So the design of this is to actually handle any event that would hit in this localized area. If we had an event that hit last year, that hit at this Main Street location, we'd have seen a lot more water.
Right, and in a 100-year flood, the report has said it would hit maybe 60 cubic feet per second by the time it hit Main Street and Telegraph. Now at 800, one of my reasons for asking this is this accounting for possible flooding issues that may happen as we develop further up from where we are in the event that I'm just trying to.
Basically, anything that will be coming in north, any development that happens there, they will take care of the drainage issues up there. So any new development that comes in the city, we require them to do detention. So they have to do on-site detention. They detain their water and release it at the rate that it historically could release at. It would run over a longer period of time because we've got a lot more hard surface in the area. But it would, if that raw ground would discharge 5 CFS, that's all they would be allowed to discharge
Right.
after they're completed their development.
So that just kind of comes back to the revolving thing around that question is, if all that detention is taken care of north of the freeway and the flood event wasn't able to be held back, and we were talking about, and it had 240, why up to 850? Is it just showing its capacity as
it's
a
just,
road?
yeah, all these are here is showing capacity, what the design of the road
Okay.
would be. So
It's not the main reason why you're dividing it, you're just showing its capacity.
correct.
Okay, that's what I was
So
curious
we
about.
wanted to show council what kind of capacities that we could fit in this roadway.
That was impressive.
And, we've really pushed to go to more of the, not necessarily a flood street design, but to bring it to the center median and not out to the curbing. So this pulls all of our water to the center of the road and not towards the outside, towards the property owners.
One thing that I have a hard time on this is a cross section of a half a city block, but we are talking a length that's 7 blocks ish. I was trying to do I'm all
4
out.
blocks.
4 blocks. Now, as we go up on those, as it connects into existing buildings and community gathering places like the LDS Church on Main Street there, how would that impact the parking in that particular scenario with this improvement?
Parking where?
So there's the LDS Church building that's on the corner of Main Street, roughly, and Telegraph. And a lot of the parking is done in the roadway at the moment. Is there any idea of how it would impact the function of that building?
So they would not be able to angle park on that. It would have to, they'd be parking basically what's shown here, a parallel parking. So it
reduce
would
the
decrease the
capacity
amount of parking that would be on road parking.
Right.
And I've actually talked with Lawrence Featherstone at the church, and he knows what would happen with the Lidian project.
So what is the,
And so one of the things that, we talked about is the entrance out of the church house. We could put a crosswalk across the road there to get people over to the parking lot, parking area at the old Nyson Market.
I don't think I've ever seen the Nyson parking lot totally full.
no,
Yeah.
So,
Well, they use the parking here behind the city office, and they
As
also use
well.
that parking lot. So,
right, and they do park over there, yeah, veterans as well, correct?
and there's quite a few people that walk to the church house.
Well, they use the veterans parking lot as well,
Yeah.
like you said, yeah.
It's interesting to see the function of and on that building. If you were to do a crosswalk in that area, it would be a raised crosswalk likened to what you've proposed at the intersections, or just a painted one of that?
Yeah, more than likely a raised crosswalk, just to keep the feel of it.
So within this, what are the key traffic calming measurements that have been incorporated into this design to make it more pedestrian and community friendly?
So the traffic calming that's been put into this is one, the center median, the landscape center median is a calming measure. The bulb out for the landscaping, that's a traffic calming measure. The bulb out at the intersections, it reduces down that intersection size. So when you're coming into it, you feel like it's decreasing in size. That slows traffic down. The colored concrete stamped crosswalks will actually, those will be a slight raise to it. So that's a calming feature. The landscaping is a calming feature. The lighting's a calming feature.
Does that slight raise to those crosswalks have any impact on the flow of water in the flood?
Seems to me
Well,
it'd
no,
catch it, wouldn't it?
No, because we would,
Act
the
as a
center of the
screen?
road, we would actually, in the center meeting, we'd either probably pipe them, or we would develop something to be able to carry that. If we get a high flow, it would carry it down to the next block into that center. And we'd use those center medians as basically detention basins
Okay.
to slow the water down, detain it, and get it into the pipe. Because we do have an existing pipe that we put in, I think 2-3 years ago up Main Street. Our
And
problem with that piping right now is we have no curb and gutter, so we have no way to direct the water to get it into the pipe.
My understanding from the open house and talking to some of the engineers there, that some of that would still need to be designed as they're actually finalizing this and
Right.
bring that
Yeah,
together.
yeah, we got a lot of
How it
design.
would flow, because the raised area, without properly looking at that, it could actually divert.
Yeah, we
water.
would have to transition from a valley center to a crown through the intersections. So, I mean, the curb and gutter still is going to be used. That's going to carry our nuisance water. So any irrigation, water from people watering lawns that runs off, small rain events, it still carries some water in the curbing there, and then be directed into basins that would put it indoor storm drain.
One thing that I was curious about is with this being a heavy residential area and also a main area where kids walk to and from school. I know we have people that help with crosswalk guards and everything else, but I've seen places where the crosswalks are more active, where you can interact and either have flags or something where people could come back and forth. Is that something that we would consider at this?
We could consider that. When we get going with this, it eventually could be a crossing guard for the school kids eventually on this road. It's the number of kids crossing, traffic. We have warrants for a crosswalk with a crossing guard that we have to meet before we can have a crossing guard, just like signals and stop signs and those things.
Just for the public that's here listening, then when you say warrants for that, you mean you have specific levels that when we hit
Specific
those
levels.
levels, then we it
Yeah,
typically triggers.
mainly it's the children and the classification of the road.
So I've heard that at 60%, we'll come back with when that's designed at 60%, we'll have a better idea of the budget, the cost, and everything. What would be the intended turnaround from starting this project to finishing it? When would you like to have this finished as a city?
I really would like to have this finished by June of next year. So June of 2020, I would like to have this completed. It's really a tight time schedule. We've got a lot of design work to get done. We're going to be about 6 months design work on this. We're going to be a 2-month bidding project process for us to advertise. We have a 30-day advertising after we award bids. By law, we have to give the contractor 30 days to start the project. It's going to be a 6-month build on the project. So that's really pushing us to that June timeframe. I envision what we'll do on this, we'll have some heavy penalties on both ends, on the engineer and on the contract. So that the engineer is going to be pushed to perform on this project to get it designed and out to bid.
All right. Have another thing. There are a few residents that are concerned due to the trauma of the flood of last year, where they were they felt safe behind their Jersey barriers. Is there any way that we could maybe work with those residents and maybe install those Jersey barriers, even though we may not need them at some point before the flood season?
Yes.
Well, that
And
kind
I
of
We
have-
have
brings
to do
open.
something this year anyway. This
Yeah.
is a 2020.
yes,
Well,
and
but,
I've
they,
talked
but this
to-
doesn't go all the way to the top end anyway. So and once the water leaves the roadway, it starts going through the neighborhoods, you've got problems. So I guess
We have a flood
there's a couple of
capacity meeting.
questions.
Well,
that
not
have to
necessarily
surface.
doesn't go all the way. I mean, like I said, we haven't done no design on this. We're still envisioning that we will do from 400 north on up. We're going to be doing something because that's our transition area to go back
Right.
to get underneath. So we will look at that. We will look at, what we can do up there as far as any other measures if we do the flood street scenario
Yeah,
there
I
without.
think you're gonna have to do some design work there, because that's where your water right now is leaving, or at least a portion of that is leaving your road.
Right.
Right.
So you've gotta begin to channel it up there to start with, to get it to where you want it finally later
Right.
down the
And
road.
right now, the water pretty much rolls to the west side.
West, correct.
And if we could do a little bit of design work and get that water to channelize in the center,
Exactly.
but like I say, that still will come along with our
Part
design.
of
But
your
we are
design.
definitely looking at that area.
Okay.
We don't have the right of way to do this in that area right now, but we will look at that area and do some work up in there as well.
This is the third component of Main Street flood mitigation. The first two, I don't matter what order you put them in, but the other two would be the detention basins above
Correct.
the freeway. And your confidence level of a complete fix is what?
With all the
With all
measures
three.
we're putting in,
Yes, yes.
I will never say it's 100% fixed, but I think we're getting 90 plus.
Well, we still have to deal with NRCS and actually build that. I mean, this is.
Yeah, we
the
still have that,
structures
and
we're
that's,
doing now are.
I understand.
They'll handle a lot, but
yeah, that's
They're-
building the full basin at Main Street. We're building a partial basin, up there, and we're building the full basin at Buena Vista. So,
Yeah, I
With the-
understand. I understand the
with the full-
timing of this.
yeah.
There's
what's the acronym for NRCS, or what's the nomenclature for?
well, it used to be soils conservation, but
So
yeah.
that's
no,
probably the yes.
National.
They're important.
Yeah.
And that's who we're looking for some funding from them for
Yes.
the largest basin.
Yeah, and we're going after the emergency funding, and we've really been bumped up on that. I think it probably might come sooner than later,
Oh, good.
so.
So within all this, I know we don't have a number, but what are our targeted ways of being able to fund this road expansion?
Well, so right now, option 5, just a really, really high level numbers is 3,068,000. So we do have water that's in this, the water fund will be paying some, the sewer fund will be paying some, storm drain fund will be paying some, even though I didn't put it in the budget. That real quickly here. So about $2 million of it's going to be road work. So $2 million coming out of the street fund, or however council decides they want to fund this. About 111,000 out of the storm drain fund, 163,000 out of the sewer fund, 373,000 out of the water fund, and then on the secondary 241,000. And then electrical, which would be the lighting, is 283,000.
Is there any type of funds you'd be able to get through our impact fees due to the expansion of the road size?
Yes. I would be able to use a portion of impact fees.
Due to the percentage of the
Just
width beyond what it
anything
is?
widening, anything to do with widening the existing section, I cannot use those funds for it, but I can use part of the impact fee funds, and we'll calculate that into the cost of this.
Within this, I was trying to find anything comparable that I could walk down and see.
There's nothing.
I've never seen anything like this before.
This is a very exciting cross section for me, because this is really, there's nothing that I know of in the state of Utah that they've incorporated. Almost every single traffic calming measure into their design.
One of the things that I really struggle with is being someone living south of Telegraph is the ability to, it's like this divide on Telegraph to where I can't get my kids across safely and I worry when they're going across. So considering that this is highly residential and seeing these measures, I'm really hoping that it continue to support pedestrian friendly traffic because that's one of the missions of the downtown area. And to continue to keep historic measures. So I know that as we're tearing out things, if there's any way we can preserve or incorporate historic and heritage-based things, this is our main street. And I think that's something that I would really like to see in engineering of making sure that it shows that this is the main street of Washington City. If we are going to go these measures, I think it'd be very important.
Mike, what would be your impacts, just thinking out, one of the concerns that I have is with the center median, obviously, is people getting from one side of the road to the other, coming home in driveways. What would be the impacts if you had a mid-block turnaround for those residents in the mid-blocks of that as well, where rather than having to clear the end of the blocks and turn them around, you could go mid-block, mid-block.
It'd probably be mostly a safety issue, doing just another left-hand
turn
turning
in the middle of
movement in the middle of the block. The left-hand turning movement is
Yeah, the worst.
there's 6 conflicts that you can get in a left-hand turning movement compared to a right-hand turning movement that has 2.
Part of me found it interesting that this would be the chosen design for that very reason. If I lived on that street, that would be one of the things I'd have a little heartburn with. Is I can't get home at night.
And there was a few people in the open house that brought that up, and it'd be go up and make a U-turn. If it gets too busy, you'd have to start planning your trips coming in to your home. We did the medians on Telegraph.
Yeah, I was just thinking out loud of maybe, like I say, I thought I'd ask the question just to say, maybe it makes it a little more convenient. It accomplishes what we're trying to accomplish, but maybe less disruptive to those residents, make their life the most convenient.
We can look at that. We can look and actually model that and see what kind of conflicts that could create on it.
I think initially we'd probably be fine, but as traffic gets busier, and that's part of the
Right.
design process, what we're looking at is future traffic. I can see where you're probably right, but I would like to at least look at it.
Yep, we can definitely look at that. We meet every single week on this and Merrill Road with the consultant, so.
I think also as we look at the greenery in the center, and what I've noticed with some of the greenery that St. George's put into some of their new stuff is that they put too much.
Right.
And as it grew, it's gotten so thick that it's no longer beautiful.
We would be very, very selective of what we do. If you look at our Washington Parkway, that's actually, I think, a pretty good landscape on that center median. It's a desert landscape. It doesn't require a lot of water. It does not grow out into the roadway and need a lot of maintenance. So we would look more towards a desert landscape. It's shown in the green. It won't be grass. It will be, decorative rock that would be put in there.
So in the original proposal, when we were talking about flood mitigation, the road widths were at 65 feet, according to the engineering. Why is it now wider than 65 feet?
So when Bowen and Collins did that original layout, all they were looking at was a flood channel. They didn't take into account what our master plan roadway widths are. They didn't take into account any of the landscaping, any of that. All they did is look at how much water can we fit in this section. That's all we asked them to do. We didn't
So it
ask
had
them
nothing to
look
do
at
with what was the right of ways. This is what we could get by on.
Right. Now we can definitely drop it down. We can definitely drop it down the right of way width to an 80-foot cross section, but it would eliminate every bit of the landscaping and bike lanes, and you'd have just the 5-lane section there.
And then when I'm talking to you about that, I have the hardest time seeing we wouldn't be able to incorporate the measures we want to do as a community for active transportation and pedestrian friendliness and calming measures if we went to those narrower roads. It would actually be less calming.
Right.
And that's the part where I struggled with, because I really was hoping that we could make a narrower road and meet the needs, but we would
Right.
lose those traffic calming
And that's one of the
measures.
other traffic calming on this cross section. We narrowed these lane widths way down to
10.5 feet.
10.5 feet.
In fact,
lane
the thing
width.
I like about the
That's a
option
narrow
5
lane.
is if you look at option 5, the first drive lane, it's the furthest away from the edge of the right of way from any of the other previous 4 designs. So.
Right.
That's where I just struggled, is that it makes more sense for what the goal we have in that area. It feels like it's taking away at first glance that, man, this seems like it's just for cars and everything. But as I've looked at it more, it just feels more and more conducive to pedestrian activity, biking, safety. There's the calming measures I think are very important to mitigate the impact of traffic in a residential area.
And you're going to see that we're doing a revision on our design standards. And one of the things that we're changing our design standards is our road cross sections to incorporate the active transportation plan. So we're incorporating all the bike lanes. So anything new that gets built will incorporate the bike lanes and incorporate the pedestrians.
They're going to start striping roads this year.
Right. Anytime we do a project that we actually can, if we can narrow the lane widths down to where we can put the bike lanes in, we're going to be doing bike lanes now. Unfortunately, some of our projects will start and stop in between. And so we'll have a little section of bike lane, but the next year we'll probably pick up the next phase of that bike lane. But we're getting started on it.
Right.
So, you know, we've got a lot of plans. You know, we're going to move ahead, I think, relatively quickly with our active transportation.
Well,
I think it's very important, and especially as we go down the road in our funding, any kind of federal funding that we get, especially like any UDOT funding, the active transportation, we have to have an active transportation plan, or we will not they won't give us funding for projects.
And see, and as I've rolled this more and more in my head, I'm excited that this is a starting point for these measures to show a new analog of how it should be. Because as I go down Telegraph, you can't park, you can't do anything unless it really is just geared for cars.
Right.
And seeing how this is everything.
So with Telegraph, it was a big issue on Telegraph when we went into the redesign. Now UDOT did all that reconstruction of it, but then it was deeded over back over the city. That also has narrow lane widths in it, and you see the road actually kind of moves around going down Telegraph because we had the historical properties that we had to miss, and we did not have the room to put bike lanes in. There would have been a lot of right of way we would have had to go in and take on that road to get bike lanes to go in there, or even on street parking. So our active transportation plan, so what we've done on that is we've shifted those bike lanes will be up on 100 north and 100 south. Until you get to 300 east, and then you can come back on the Telegraph. We've got the width we can stripe.
So as I walked this road, I didn't see anything that, I know many people, knowing that there's a right of way there, had a great time with their yard in this area. I didn't see anything structural besides landscapes. Is there anything of concern that's within these right of ways that need to be changed outside of this cross section within this area? You're aware of?
The biggest dilemma we're going to have with this is tie-in driveways in. You know, the ups and the downs on driveways, and get those to tie in to make it work for people. And that's why we want to go meet with every property owner while we're in the design process, so we can get their input. You know, we might have to come back in and pull their driveway up clear to their garage just to make it so it transitions for them.
And there were some individuals who had expressed the desire to look at maybe a circular drive.
Drives, and we would incorporate that. We wouldn't pour the circular drives for them,
Right.
but we'd do the curb cuts. We'd try to make it to where what we build would be conducive to what they would like to do.
So talk to me about the time schedule for that, because you're gonna be meeting with each resident, and they would need to make a decision on that.
Well, once we pick a cross section that we're going to go with, we'll probably start trying to meet with property owners immediately. We want to give them a little bit of time to where they can think about what they need. We want to keep them heavily involved through this whole process. So, you know, take input from the property owners. When we meet with them, we want to get every one of their at least email addresses to where we can actually email them updates directly to them, as well as keep on our webpage updated.
One of my main concerns with that was just considering, this is probably going to be talked about in the 6-month design phase, right? But I'm thinking I'm living in the middle of the block. Can you tear up my street? How do I get to my yard? Are there going to be ways in which during the construction you're
Well,
going to try to?
During construction, it'll be open to the local traffic. It'll be probably open all the time with some closures that will have to be done. But we'll probably try to have to keep it open. Telegraph, when we reconstructed it, we had to keep it open. You know, we
Bluff
couldn't
Street was
shut
the same
Telegraph.
way, you know, and
Just figure it out.
yeah, it's uncomfortable while it's getting built, but Bluff Street's pretty nice to travel on now. So,
Well, you know, we've talked about flood issues and safety issues, and probably isn't any issue we haven't talked about. I appreciate, in my imagination, aesthetically, how beautiful that's going to help our Main Street to be in some place we can be proud of. It's our Main Street. It's,
Right.
you know, Washington City's Main Street, and it's going to be, I'd even leave that little grassy short strip in there just because it creates unity and it creates some beauty. And I think we're going to be proud of what we accomplished with that 3-point-something million.
When we did Telegraph, we actually did that. We took care of those strips outside of that. Whether it was some decorative rock, we tried to tie into whatever we had on the properties. There were some areas where we actually had to build little retaining walls and put the retaining walls up. And then we put the decorative fencing up there just to try to tie some of that atmosphere in, that it's more of a downtown area, not a big asphalt road.
Well-
And that's what I see will happen here too.
Well, and we do have some historical things along there, which I'm not really well aware, but I think that it will increase the focus on those historical homes that might be in that area. I'm excited. I think this is the start of something really nice in the area. Will be helpful.
And hopefully we get it nice enough we move our parades to this road.
There you go. That'd be good.
Shade.
That'd be
Can
good.
I take us back to the conversation about the turnarounds for just a minute? Do you have envisioned in your mind how people are going to turn around? Are you thinking, and I guess the second part of that question is, are you going to do any further study or further design into helping people turn around to get back to their home? So are you wanting them to go around the block?
No,
Are you
I
thinking they'll
mean,
do a U-turn?
they should be able to make a U-turn at each of the intersections where we do have a 4-lane section there. They should be able to make a U-turn there
So
in a car. I mean, a big truck, a longer, you know, maybe not so much. But I do think a passenger car will be able to make that U-turn with not too much difficulty.
So will you be incorporating
No.
the bulb outs? Well, I guess obviously at the intersections you'll have to have that. So you putting up signage there? Consider maybe you're not far enough along to even
Yeah,
consider
we're
that.
not really far enough along. You know, we could make it even more conducive for U-turns, but then we'd be taking the bulb out on the
Yeah.
corners out.
One of my other concerns that with the narrowing of these lanes, which is good for normal traffic, we've had so much truck traffic on this road. One of my concerns of having trucks every 3 minutes coming down this, in some scenarios, they pay taxes, we can't limit them from coming down it, is would having trucks of those size actually make it good to have these narrow lanes? Would that actually imperil the people that live on that road if they were driving on this lane side by side with the trucks?
I'm not sure. You're asking if
I don't know how to
it's
say
safe
this
for the
other-
trucks to go down there?
Would it be, is this going to influence truck traffic on this road? Would it limit it, or would it?
Would
also
probably, if there was another route that they could take that'd be probably, you know, close to the same distance, they probably would take that instead of going on this road because of the narrow lanes, because of what we've done on it.
Right.
Is it going to eliminate the truck traffic? No.
I think it'd have a tendency to slow it down.
It will definitely
I was
slow it down.
thinking, you know,
It'll
it's-
definitely slow it down. The problem we run into is we have 3 places to go north of I-15,
correct.
13, 10, and Main Street.
All right.
So,
Just to ask, because it was a main concern of people that lived on that road was
Right.
how does it, because it's not if trucks do come often.
right.
I was just wondering if that would
And
be.
it's been very, very heavy the last month because the development that's been going on and the excavations they've had to do, and then the developments that are out in the fields that need the fill materials. So that's what they're doing.
Okay.
And that's our Buena Vista Basin. That's exactly why we got such a good price, is they got the material sold to somebody out in the fields area.
Wonderful. All right, just as a question, thank you for explaining
But
that.
on that project, it's our project. We can dictate which way they go.
So within the 6 months, you're going to be talking to residents, looking at their needs. Give yourself 2 months for the bidding to come out, 30 days before they start. You're hoping 6 months from the time they start, this will be finished. That's the hope, the projection.
With direct contact to the homeowners, as well as collection of emails and updates, as well as
Yes.
on the website updates.
My whole goal is to have this under construction, bare minimum January.
So fortunate we have the atmosphere, the heat, the
We do.
whatever we've got that would allow some
Yep.
movement on that. We don't have to fight
Yeah,
the snow.
what we don't want to do is be under construction on this during the monsoon season.
Yeah.
Because that could really be disastrous for everybody.
All right. Any other questions? Anybody want to make a motion?
Mayor, I'll make the motion that we choose the proper term, Mike. Number 5.
Option 5. yes.
Cross-section 5, that seems to be the one the residents are most amenable to. So I think that's important that we take their input, listen to. So I'd make the motion that we approve cross-section 5 for our Main Street.
Second,
I have a motion and a second.
Trey, aye.
Fellas and I.
Granger, I
Ward, and I do thank the council for postponing that for, that duration of time. I know a lot of things didn't come in, but I know there were at least 2 residents who were in communication with me who would talk to multiple people on the street to make sure that they understood what was going on, as well as giving me an opportunity to catch up with a couple people several people actually that I had started conversations with, and some that I hadn't been able to talk to. So I thank you for
I had a
that.
couple emails as well.
Yeah, I think it was.
I think it was beneficial. I don't think it hurt.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Okay, that's approved. We'll move on to item 7, ordinance. Consideration to approve an ordinance amending a portion of the Washington City Code, Title 6, Public Ways and Property, Chapter 5, Public Parks, Section 6-5-1, J, Group Usage, and G, Vendor Sub-License, and 6-5-3, Special Events, G, Sale of Goods, as defined in the addition of special event application fee. Are fees that complicated? All right, Ben, African Washington City.
Part of our goal with this is to try and make things less complicated, especially for our citizens. I think this can be encapsulated in really 3 areas. Number 1, we're asking for group usage in the parks to be amended from 100 to 200 individuals, allowing city staff to make determinations on smaller groups under 200 as to whether that it's a allowable use in the park. Part of this has come up because we get a lot of requests from church groups and other groups that currently exceed the 100 number in our city ordinance. And by exceeding that, they must come to council for consideration. For example, if you have a church Easter egg hunt that has 150 people, that by nature would have to come before council. And we feel like, given the growth of the city and usage of the park, that is something that could probably be handled internally without needing to come to council. So that's part 1. Part 2 is sub-licensing for vendors to be able to come in when we have tournaments and other events, is to provide a very straightforward and easy application process for them to be able to fill out a 1-page sub-licensee form with a $5 fee and be able to do those events. All of those would come to council for approval. So that's just more of a streamlining process. And then item number 3 is a master fee adjustment for special event permits. In our mind, this is a lot of simplifying the process right now.
Can we go back to the one you just did?
Yes.
We've been talking about making actual costs in the lining them to the areas that actually have to spend the time doing the licensing, for example. So my question is the fee of $5 adequate?
You go ahead. You're the one that's.
Mostly what we will be collecting with these business license applications is their sales tax number, because we need to make sure we collect our revenue off of them, and their contact information. So yes, $5 should be able to take care of it, because they can just look at the application. We're not going to issue a license. We're not putting them into our system. $5 should be, per event, should be sufficient.
So how do you handle somebody that does not have a current business license in a situation like that it applies?
Well, the $5 will cover their license. That would be their license only for that one event. So like Cotton Days, they'll be charged.
So basically it's a day.
So, but this is a
It's a
sub-license.
day license,
But what if they don't
Right.
have a license to be a sub from? Can they?
Well, and it
will this-
depends on, it depends on the business. You know, if they're just coming to this one thing, if you have someone who has a home occupation kind of a thing where they make crafts at home and they show up to the whatever event it is, that's their license to sell that event at that thing. So that takes the place of their business
So
license.
maybe rather than a sub-license, this is a limited license?
Well, most of the cities call them a vendor sub-license, because it's underneath the vendor. The vendor is the one that has to make sure they fill out these forms. So that's where we
So
put
the
it.
vendor would be the main
The big
event.
event. Mhm.
So on those events that are city events, then we become the vendor.
Yes, yes. And that's what we've done with Cotton Days. And
Now, my
Don't you think
assumption
that
was
would
that,
take your
my
care?
assumption was that I have a license in St. George, but I come to the event in Washington, and so I get a $5 license for that day. It's a sub-license because I'm licensed somewhere else.
yeah, but it won't make it, it doesn't make a difference to us.
So, for example, you've got Little Billy Joe here who wants to go and sell sodas and water down the street.
Depends on how old they are. If they're under 18, they're not required to have a license as some state law right now.
So we could walk down and sell a soda or water, not a big deal.
Yep, now they can.
like I'm
Underneath
Before,
this,
but they can now, yeah.
So does this just cover the licensing, not, so is there any other fee to be
Yeah.
a part of that event?
There may be, as determined by the actual vendor or special event host for that. So for Cotton Days, there's a $50 fee, which
So
is,
say I'm a private company, I want to come in and throw an event in our city. So then I could turn around and charge my sub-vendors, you want to be a part of my event, you're going to pay me X amount. You're going to pay $5 to the city, ultimately. That's.
yes. But all of those would come before city council as a special event permit. So those are things that we would then be able to discuss.
So
whether
this
we
would
feel
all
like
come for an approval for a special event approval process.
correct.
Because there's a sale of goods on.
Yeah, no, I was just asking, I guess I was trying to figure out what fees,
Well, there's a
where.
sale of goods on city property that comes before you guys.
So you dropped two documents in. One is the actual chapter 5. Was there any change to that? Because I didn't see any change in it.
Right here, this is the portions that are, so everything in red is new.
No, I know, but the next document at the very top, it says chapter 5 public parks, 6-5-1 rules, regulations, requirements. And then it goes down
Right, we didn't,
A, B, C, D. I just didn't know what changed in that document.
just J had to change and then we added W. It's not on
Okay,
that
all right,
document, it's
got
just this that would add to it.
Okay, got it.
You feel like this change leaves it open enough to deal with an individual who is selling commercially, as well as an individual who might be selling for small household or even private, and then also for fundraisers for nonprofits.
Yes, nonprofits have to kind of go through special things with the tax commission,
Mhm.
so that's different. But mostly what we're collecting on these businesses, whatever size they are, is mostly just to make sure we get their sales, their temporary sales tax number because they're actually coming into Washington and setting up and selling.
So this would apply, for example, to food trucks and things that come for a one-day event.
But again, only if it's associated with a specific event. This would not give.
Right,
rise to
there
license
are
event.
unique times, so if it's this event is, okay.
That's
No, thank you.
okay. Hey.
I guess you need a motion, right, Mayor?
I do.
Well,
need
we
a
we
motion.
still, he wasn't quite finished with his presentation, I don't think.
I don't, the third portion is just special event fees is to, so right now, we have no fees associated with a special event permit. So essentially, if you were coming in and you wanted to use the pavilion, you would pay $50. But if you were coming in and running a race and putting in a special event permit, there was no fee associated with that. So part of this, we wanted to standardize that. If you're a group under 200, as proposed here, we would charge you $50 in line with this if you were renting a pavilion for your group. If you had a larger group, there would be a slightly larger fee to help accommodate staff needs. And part of the reason we came up with the 200 number is we felt like once you start getting past 200 people, at this point, we felt like that was still good to come before council because you start to run into parking and other issues once you get larger, and staff has a lot more work involved once you get larger groups.
So in your documentation, you specifically called out the movie in the park. I wondered about that. I just, I guess I legitimately don't know what the funding for that is, but my assumption is that the Chamber of Commerce is kind of donating services there. I personally love going there. I think it's one of my favorite, non-holiday events that the city does. But under this, you would be charging or groups like that, specifically those events. You would be charging the organizers of that event to do that.
Yes.
Okay, so I guess just for council discussion, I would want us to think maybe a little bit about considering just contributing to events that are, community building and nonprofit in nature. Maybe that's just our portion, and even broader, maybe we want to look at if they're willing to bring some of the volunteers to clean up and contribute to things that reduce the load on city staff to clean up and do that. There is some real community value to some of those.
I don't think
events.
there's anything that prohibits any group from making that request to council now.
To make the request to do it without the fee.
That would,
Or was
that
that
would
They
actually be
always have that
allowable under
option
this
to be able to
because
come
it,
in. I don't know how you'd write that into an ordinance. I think it'd be by request of the group. If it's a 501c3 that, a nonprofit that helps such and such a way, I'd be fine waiving a fee, but I don't know that needs to be scheduled.
Well, it struck me specifically because it was written into the ordinance, the movie in the park. So I thought I would address it. It's something that I don't mind see tax dollars going towards something that's that good of a community builder.
that's a fair discussion. Each of these, again, as a special event permit, would all come before council. And if that's a direction. that-
What I don't see in your special events are time limitations. In other words, if I look at this, that means I can do it the whole day and the night, 24 hours, and only pay $2. So it seems to me like there needs to be some time designation with these fees.
Like a per day or per hour.
Our current general standard is a 4-hour block. We did not specify that.
Probably ought to
and Maybe
say
that needs to
that
be
somewhere.
specified,
Yeah.
that this is per 4-hour block.
When they fill out the paperwork to submit requests for this, do they specify their hours of use
Yes,
in that document?
it is part of the documents.
So that would come before council as well.
Yeah, I would think if it's more than 4 hours, there might be additional fees.
And at this point, because there is not an ordinance or a fee in there, like events like movies in the park, They're not coming before council at this point.
They are coming before council because they usually break the 100-person barrier. So they're coming before, but there is currently no fee associated with any of those kind of events.
Council rather have them table and have them make those tweaks and bring it back, or just put it in the motion?
If it's okay to put in the motion, I would favor that being in the motion unless there's any disagreement with staff.
Motion first.
I think
it's
we would.
significant enough.
Sounds like we're ready for a motion.
Yeah. Well, I'll make a motion that we approve an ordinance amending a portion of the Washington City Code, Title 6, Public Ways and Properties, Property, Chapter 5, Public Parks, Sections, Group Usage, Vendor Sublicense, and Special Events. With the addition of identify the time component, a 4-hour block, and
You're going to specify the time component?
just specified in a 4-hour block. After that would be additional fees from staff.
Motion and a second.
By way of conversation on that, would it be the intention of the council then to kind of give direction to staff that if they had a movie in the park or a specific event that was really community building, that they would suggest to those kind of individuals that they could present a no-fee option, and maybe encourage them to bring,
That's for an exemption.
ask for an exemption,
I
and
think it's
possibly ask for
fine
volunteers as well.
To allow staff to request it. I don't know that it needs to go in a motion.
Well, I don't know. I'm not saying an emotion. That's why I waited for the motion to close. I'm just saying, is that the kind of,
It's
what
giving
we're
them
maybe
ability to make
suggesting?
that.
If it's a community builder or if it's a nonprofit that does, helps out in the community, I think that would be great. That's suggested. Allow them to come forward with that.
Once again, that goes back with the staff's discretion on some of those events. Yeah.
Thank you. Mayor, did you look this way?
I
Ward-
did.
Ward, aye.
Thank you.
Club, aye.
Ranger, I.
Bellis and I.
Eric, aye.
All right, that's approved with those modifications. Item 8, we're going to move on to some public hearings. Item A, public hearing for consideration to approve a zone change request, E-19-05, request to amend the Stuckey Farms planned community development located approximately Washington Fields Road and 4430 South. Purpose of the amendment is to amend the specific site plan by changing the use of Village 11 from low density to medium high density and combine the expand the ball fields and park area. Village 22 and 23 are being eliminated and their area added to Village 24 to create a larger combined park area total of 43 acres for an addition of 10.4 acres to parks as well as common open space to account for the addition of the 10.4 acres. The overall unit count has remained the same. Applicant Carl Larson.
Thank you, Mayor, and sorry I made you go through all that.
No worries.
Monday afternoon, I got an email from the representative of the applicant, and they were asked if it would be possible that the city council table this item till the May 8th meeting. That's why I apologize. Till the May 8th meeting. This is due to contracts with the possible, as you know, the Village 24, you're aware, is a soccer company trying to work that purchase, and it's not completed yet. They would like to make sure they had an extra few weeks to finish out those contracts, is my understanding. So they're asking if this could be tabled for 2 weeks. And the reason we have to do it now is because we send out notices saying this was going to be a public hearing. And so if you are inclined to table it for 2 weeks, that you table the public hearing as well. That gives the notice of those who showed up that the public hearing will then be held on May the 8th at your regular meeting.
Renotice though.
Not if we do it like we're doing it tonight.
Why couldn't we do this and continue our public hearing and have our public hearing tonight and continue the public hearing as well? That way, those residents that made the attempt to be here tonight can be heard.
Will there be
You have
changes
that
that we
option
need
to
to
do, as the council, you can do both those.
Will there,
The only issue, pardon me,
will there be changes in 2 weeks that they should have opportunity to speak to? And
Well,
Well, that would
we'll
be up
just
to
tell
their
them
decision if they
they're,
wanted to come back.
we
if
generally
do that.
don't let them bring in changes as a whole between a planning commission public hearing and to this
I see.
point. So we try not to do that unless it was a directive at the public hearing by the planning commission. We'll have them add those things in. But generally to change things, no, we would just tell them, if you don't, then just reapply.
So here's one of my concerns. If let's say that there were people here to talk and discuss on this, knowing that there will be significant changes to what's presented tonight, would it be inappropriate if they were able to speak to their concerns at this moment, since they've waited for the past hour and change to voice their concerns, knowing that it may not be what they're concerned about by the time the changes come?
Well, there's a
2
lot in
weeks.
that. I mean, when we think about all the ands, ifs, and buts and possibilities, things can change, but you have that opportunity as the council to hold your public hearing tonight, table it, and have a public hearing on the 8th as well. You can just table this tonight, ask the folks if they can come back then in case, the whole thing is that if you recommend changes to it, that's a whole different thing. And you have that right. I'm telling you, I don't want you to put yourselves in a vice that says now we can't recommend some changes and these folks, spoke tonight, didn't know about them. That would be the only concern I have about that, is that if you get some extra public input 2 weeks thinking, oh, nobody thought about that. That's a great idea. That's all I'm trying to make sure you're aware of, if that makes sense.
Can I ask you a question? How many notices went out?
Denise, do you remember roughly how many? There's quite a lot. Hundreds.
Okay, so my concern isn't with, I understand we got a few people here potentially that would like to talk on it, but we've got hundreds of people that have a notice in their hand that says, tonight we got
is
to
when it
table.
is.
I mean, if we're going to table it, I'd rather table it to the second one in May and send out new notices so they got a new physical. Here's a new notice.
Well, let's,
We tabled it.
Well, I would think that we could open our public hearing, we could hold, you don't have to close it. You table your public hearing as well, so you hear those that are here tonight.
And table it
You can
until,
continue for those that want to. If there's any that show up the next one, they can continue to speak. If people want to come back, they can continue to speak.
because the
And
developer.
I get that.
You
We
just don't close it.
They just have, and I'm fine with that. I just.
Is
you've
there
got-
anybody
you've
out
got
there,
hundreds
any of you folks
notices out
here
there
for this?
Tonight instead of push.
Three, are you a husband, wife, or, okay, I hope you were friendly neighbors. Okay, so
Now, one other thing,
that's good. I've heard that. It's a good
within
thing.
what they're saying in the motion by Councilman Granger to put into this, knowing that the developer is asking to have this be brought up 2 weeks from now, knowing that there's already been issue of this public hearing, I think it's more than fitting to hear tonight. And I appreciate Councilman Turek giving the advice of maybe opening this and knowing it's going to be extended to a later date.
I'm always there on the side of, got a public hearing, think about moving it. You've got anybody that's here, let them talk on it, because the worst that happens.
No.
It could be.
I totally agree. I totally agree that the people who are here ought to have their opportunity. That my concern is that you've got potentially hundreds of people that say, hey, don't worry about it, we're not having it. And now I don't want somebody coming back saying,
But where
geez,
did
I
they
didn't
get
know what
notice
was
that they
supposed
weren't having it?
I don't think.
No, they don't. They don't get a notice
Yeah,
they're not
there's
having
nobody
it.
noticed that it's not
But that's
happening.
why we don't touch it till it comes here, because
I
we,
have no doubt the HOA sent an email out that said,
Well, then
We're
they'll send the
recommending table
HOA. If they did that, I would assume they would renotice again, I would hope.
Okay,
Mayor, is it okay if we hear council?
absolutely. Thank you, Drew. We are going to open this public hearing. Did you get noticed by by your HOA that this was not? Yeah, come on up. I'm just curious. Did you get a letter or a notice from your HOA that
We
this
did,
was tabled?
we did, but several of our neighbors did not
Not-
get the notice.
Okay.
That it was tabled?
No, we didn't get that notice at all. The meeting,
Right.
but several of the people in the association did not get the letter.
Ma'am, can I get your name?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's Martha Cram Perkins. And what I wanted to discuss tonight was I was concerned that some of the people didn't get the letter. And I can tell you, my husband and I bought into the Stuckey Farm Shangri-La. We loved the idea of a planned community. We thought it was laid out very well. My husband and I came here to retire from Southern California. And we're both professionals and we're still working. But my concern in all this was that everyone wasn't notified. There wasn't a person on my block that was in favor of this. The issue is that while the count doesn't change in the number of people living in the subdivision, you're going from people that have bought land, built homes, and they purposefully built those homes to not be by medium to high density apartments. We have a lot of medium to high density apartments and townhomes near Lynn's that are already in close proximity to our properties. And so nobody was in favor of that. And I guarantee you, if you kick it out a couple of weeks, on the 8th, we're doing a big special humanitarian project for the Dove Center. And so some of us wouldn't be able to attend because we've got already over 60 people that have signed up to participate in that humanitarian project. But I can tell you that my concern with all this is that people weren't notified. B, I think you need time to allow people to put petitions together. Kick it out, give it some time. They're not on board with this. If you guys bought there under one plan 6 or 7 years ago, and already halfway through the plan's been changed, if you, your daughter, your son, your grandparent, you can understand where the angst might come for people. And my other concern in all this is that, you know, we're not holding our hats waiting on a ball field. Most of us are, 50 and above. While I may not look it, I am. And so we're not hanging our hats on that. We've been waiting over 2 years for a pool to get done. So we're not hanging our hats on a ball field. And I think he had a great plan, and I bought into the plan. And honestly, there is some legal precedence that if this is changed partway through, the county could be at risk here for a lawsuit, because you're changing, even though they say that a plan can be changed, not when it involves medium to high density properties that were not in the original plan. So I'm really concerned about this, as all my neighbors are, and I can name several that didn't get the letter, that were like, what is going on?
The letter's only gonna go out to the noticing requirements. So even within Stuckey Farms, you're gonna have a lot of people who are not gonna get noticed unless the HOA sends something out, or friends tell each other. And it's certain distance requirements.
The Meadows. The Meadows.
Yeah, so you wouldn't have got one anyway. 'Cause
I
you're
got
farming.
one.
You did.
But the neighbor across the street who's on the board didn't get one. The neighbor who's around the corner, Barbara Taylor, did not get one. Many others did not get one. Well, it impacts everyone there.
Sure.
Because when you've got a town where the average income is $10 an hour, you're going to have multi-families living there, not just a family of 4. And that's the facts. And, I'm not going to go away quietly in the night, nor would I expect you to if it impacted your backyard. My husband and I have a 12-year-old. We care, and our neighbors care. And so I want you to know how we feel.
Let's make sure you understand the noticing requirements. However, we've exceeded what the state requires because we wanted more people noticed. So we already notice more than the state requires unless we're noticing a certain number within a certain area around it. Okay, because we had situations where we were sending out 1 or 2 notices within that 300 feet parameter. Because it was BLM and Zitla. Okay, so we've changed that to do it, but it doesn't mean everybody. It means within that 300 feet if we get at least 30 families noticed.
Some people would call it gerrymandering. And I'm serious when I say this, that people they invested money, their hard-earned money, for their Shangri-La, and it didn't involve medium to high density apartments. Sorry, it didn't. So that's.
So probably this tabling actually helps, because it
Exactly.
2 weeks to help spread the word.
Well, but you were saying that you have a conflict. Can you explain that again? You have your community is doing some support work for the Dove Center, and that is on the May 8th date.
Yes, it's the Washington Well, it's Washington County's women's shelter,
Mhm.
and it's something that's been on the books for a long time. And we have over 55 people attending that event.
That's tremendous. Your community has done that kind of outreach.
Well, I'm heading it up. I'm not going to come here and not do something to give back. Okay?
That's great.
And so I just hope you're elected officials, many of you, and I just hope you would really take it into account. I know there's others that may want to talk. My husband says, hey, he's putting out the big gun. He'll just clap for me.
Can you
Right
tell
on the
me,
way,
but
yeah.
before you go though,
Yeah.
can you tell me the timing of the Dove Center? Is that an all day thing?
Starts at 6:30.
Starts at
6:30 to 9.
in the evening,
Yeah.
not tonight.
The
6:30 to 9.
To 9 o'clock.
Tonight. Oh, sorry.
I wasn't quite sure, I mean, for years, nobody's ever happy about how notice would go out. Having said that, we just want to make sure that you have the chance to express your concerns about the actual modification for the building. Not sure necessarily about that, other than, because we've done notice requirements wrong.
Well, the
We've
other,
done notice requirements wrong, but that doesn't have to do, that's corrected by doing it correctly anyway, so just make sure that you had some specific arguments about the development that was there. I think that you might want to share those also.
well, the other concern is, my thought process is that you send out a thing saying you got a public notice. My husband took off work early to come tonight. I did too, and I appreciate you giving me some time. But we can't have a joker come and saying there's no public, that this isn't we want to kick it out when people have sat here through all that. It has to be professional, and I really appreciate all of you giving time tonight. They should have had their stuff together before the public hearing. Now we're going to have to come back again,
Well, in all fairness, you're right, but you have the best of both scenarios from what you've expressed your concern. You feel like there should be more people involved in this process that didn't show up tonight. You've been given that. And likewise, you're right that this should have been in place, but by granting them extension, it poses no harm to the residents. It actually gives you more of an opportunity.
That's right.
So it is, you're right, but also the benefit, I think, serves the best interests of both parties. It's a unique scenario. I fully agree, but I'm hopeful that we can get more input on this. This is perfectly fine, and that's why we do this process.
great.
Please understand the process isn't about another way of voting. It's not public clamor, it's information. We want
Let
to
us
know what
know.
the impacts are, what the reasons for the impacts are, what information we may not have considered.
Well, look at where all the new townhomes and apartments are going in. We're already inundated.
It's- Yeah, so I'm
it's-
just saying, as
yeah.
you talk about it, that's
And
what we
there's
need.
there's a part of me, and this comes from my years in business. Bottom line, what's this about? It's about money. It wasn't enough selling the lots, but you now want residual income. And that's what it comes down to.
Thank you.
Okay, but because we've talked a lot about the noticing but I just want to make sure that I understand your points on the actual changes to the project. You're apathetic about the ball fields. Is that what I'm hearing?
I don't care. I'm all
Right.
for baseball.
Okay.
That's all American. But I'm saying that the over 50 crowd isn't hanging their hat waiting for a ball field to be built.
And
We
the
can't
more
even
the
get a
more
pool
European
built.
soccer doesn't affect you either. It's not as American.
You know what? Go
Well,
for it.
Okay.
But my thing is, I don't care about that, the green space. What I care about is 3 and 4 high units of apartments in my backyard. I already got planes going over.
Yeah.
I don't need, 3-level families.
And your concern with the apartments there, beyond just having them there, would be this specifics as far as
It doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that someone living in an apartment doesn't have the same pride of ownership as someone who's plunked down several $1,000s on a home. They don't.
So you're okay with the way that because there is some density in the design currently, that you don't want to see any more condensing of the density, because there's not more houses, it's just condensing them into smaller locations.
We've already got rentals, vacation rentals. We've already got an RV park. Come on already. We don't need 3 and 4 unit, level apartments as well. And depending on what you're charging for rent, I mean, you know what the average income is here. It's going to be more than one family.
Not sure if I follow you with that. You're saying,
Depending on what they're charging for rent. I mean, if you're,
oh, more than one family living per.
yes. So that's my comments. And I try to, put a bow on it, but it's hard when it's right in your backyard.
Well, I guess in some ways I can see the developers. I mean, I think they're kind of responding to a little bit of an opportunity with soccer fields coming in. It's something that the city, there's been some.
We have
some
lovely
desire for
soccer
that.
fields
I
right
understand.
here in Washington,
And
a whole park.
To finish my point though is with, you mentioned the airplanes and it is possible that they're recognizing that there is, maybe a greater opportunity to sell to a different market because of some of the downsides of the area, which the airport is that for the.
If I tried to sell my home, I would have to disclose for my realtor that these apartments are going in. And it would impact the value.
Ma'am,
Yes.
to be fair, Village 11, where they're requesting the apartments, is on the other side of the hill. You physically will not even be able to see them.
But you know what?
I'm not.
It's still there.
I'm just telling you physically where.
I saw it. I saw it. And it doesn't matter whether I'm representing the people who live there, whether it's the meadows, the cottages, whatever. We're all one big family.
I understand. I only bring that up because they're going to have to access from the quality development project that's coming through. It's going to have to, except for maybe the HOA meetings. I don't know that you'd ever even see anybody that showed up that lived there, just because of geographically where they're at.
Well,
So
we're not on board, and there's deep pockets where we live, and those folks aren't on board. And because of the lack of notification, that's why more people weren't here. I guarantee if I do a petition, every single person would sign it.
There wouldn't be anything about the design that you're in favor of, or
If they want to build
Any
private homes
combination.
there, if they want to build private homes, I applaud them.
Look forward to your feedback.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lady and gentlemen.
Anybody else? I have any motion.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Continue
not
then.
seeing anybody, my one thought is Drew, I guess I kind of don't see the applicant or any of the representatives here. I'm wondering what kind of a hardship, or if we delayed this for an extra 2 weeks to that May 22nd.
I was
meeting.
going to request that we.
So we don't
do it
have
the
this
22nd.
conflict with the homeowners, and so I guess where they're not here to speak up, they're gonna have to live with what motion I make.
Well, it is.
So-
They've asked for it to be tabled. They were hoping the 8th, but hey, they asked for the tabling, so.
Okay, with that, I'm gonna make the motion that we table and continue our public hearing until May 22nd.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second for the May 22nd.
Ward, I.
Clef eye.
Granger, aye.
Bellis and I.
Eric, aye.
Thank you.
Try to do that, Kathy, just to make sure we get at least within our noticing requirements. Again, nobody tends to like higher density if they're moving there anyway, but just to make sure we hit that area just in case there's any.
I'm also
Yeah.
curious. I'm also a little bit curious because we sent out notices at the planning commission public hearing. It's the same list that the recorder's office sends out. They take the exact same list that we get. The client has to supply and show the area. They give us the bubble. And so I was kind of curious that we had, I think, nobody. You guys remember there was nobody showed up for the planning commission public hearing, and it's the same notices that went out. So I'm a bit baffled and fogged on this myself, just because it's the same number of notices.
Well, the thing I find interesting too is
So-
supposedly so many neighbors have been talked to, but nobody else showed you. I mean, whether get a notice in the mail or notice by mouth, you have the same notice. So interesting. We'll give them another chance.
Can I ask for clarification? We've tabled it to the second meeting May.
22nd of May.
22nd
The
of May.
22nd of May. Are we noticing everything again?
I
Or
don't
not,
think so.
because we
No.
just tabled? Okay,
Yeah,
I
we
just wanted to
discontinued
make
it. No,
sure
we're not
that,
renoticing.
okay.
We're just tabling.
We hope that you
Continuing.
get the word out to all the folks that didn't show up tonight that had hundreds. So that-
Thank you. No, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item B, public hearing for consideration of annexation of property. Consists of approximately 840.41 acres of real property located at or near St. George Regional Airport, adjacent to the Southern Parkway within sections 23, 24, 25, 26, Township 43 South, Range 15 West, Washington County, Utah. The requested zoning of this property is to match the current master plan for Washington City. Applicant is Scott Peterson.
Okay, so this is the very tail end of our very long process that we've been working on since the first of the year. I have been in contact with the county because their time frame for notifications and the ability for people to protest ran kind of along ours. Theirs ended just the last day or two, so I finally got a hold of the county today. They have not received any protests whatsoever. I've only had people, two people that I know of. One was a development that was just south of us, and they just kind of wanted to know when this was coming for the approval process. They didn't have any objections to it. They just wanted to know what kind of a timeline. And the other one is a gentleman that has property in the annexation, and he didn't have any complaints with it. He just wanted to see what had happened as far as the outcome of that actual annexation. So it meets all of our guidelines. We've certified the annexation. Our timelines have run. Do you have any questions for me?
Any questions for Denise? Okay, it's a public
thank you.
hearing. Is there anybody out there that has an interest in this consideration? I'll entertain a motion to close this public hearing.
So moved, Mayor.
Have a motion to close?
Second,
Motion and a second.
Eric, aye.
Granger, aye.
Clough, aye.
Board, aye.
Item 9, annexation, consideration to approve an ordinance extending the corporate limits of Washington City to include the Airport East annexation of property. Consists of approximately 840.41 acres of real property located at or near St. George Regional Airport. It's adjacent to the Southern Parkway within sections 23, 24, 25, and 26. Township 43 South, Range 15 West, Washington County, Utah. The requested zoning of this property is to match the current master plan for Washington City.
Mayor, with that, I'm happy to make the motion that we approve annexation of the real property, as you've explained. Having been a part of this process for the last 11 years, it's nice to have this finally done.
Well, if it's that big a celebration, I'll second it.
It is a celebration. You do the fight.
Did we, so just as far as comment before the vote, does this make the land continuous? Or is there a break between there? Does it?
In order for us to annex, it has to be adjacent to our current city boundaries. So, yeah, we see the hatch marks along the top of the,
That is our existing.
yeah, right there. See how the slashes?
Okay.
That's Washington city boundaries, and St. George's are the hash marks.
One thing, and when I believe we talked about this as a council, the intent was to hopefully have this annexed and come in with zoning with it.
It is,
States that.
it's the same as what the general plan shows.
Master plan. It
The
comes with
master
zoning,
plan,
it's master
the
plan.
general, yeah.
Okay, I missed that. I
cities.
apologize.
Which
No
is,
problem.
which is,
Yeah, can we just take a
this-
look at that?
It's significantly.
Wait a minute.
as I looked at this, I see family trusts and names and stuff, but I was just trying to see the actual zoning.
Aren't any bear claw poppies out there, huh?
I think it's farther north. Farther north of this.
Okay. Well, they won too many, so.
Here for us to get a little battle in once in a while, huh? Gosh. 340 issues by regional airport ain't a bad thing, man.
You go for it.
I'll try and stall, maybe. Mayor, city council members, like Councilmember Turk said, the city's been working on this piece for a while. We've been getting a little more aggressive with it as of recently. Myself, Councilmember Belliston, and several of the property owners currently there have been working on some, what do I say, creative plans on what we foresee doing or accomplishing in this spot. Specifically working with Sitla, that they own majority of this property. And they own about, I want to say, a little over 400 acres. So more than half of the proposed annexation, I think. We have been working with EDC Utah to look at classifying this as a mega site. I think we talked about this earlier. This is something that they will help us market. And in order for a company to participate in this one, again, this is fish's wishes, but why not go big? The company would need to invest $1 billion and call out 1,000 jobs is what that purpose for classifying as a mega site. Besides that, we are looking at doing some other things with industries, trying to create a different or another or a new industry. Right now, we're thinking about doing something with the automotive testing industry and possibly with working with our public safety people with developing a track, an EVO track, so that folks here locally doesn't have to go up north to Camp Williams, which is the only track in the state that one can be certified on. So that's another idea that we're playing with, looking at a public-private utilization of that track and bringing in companies to test their products, their vehicles, and possibly even going into a private sector. I did not realize that there is at least a dozen folks in the local area, folks that I don't run around with, that own several Lamborghinis in their garage, and they go and rent places throughout the country, shops, condos, and they go and race. You know, so that's just a different, brand new market that we never thought of. But they do come with some resources, so that could be kind of an interesting concept as well. So we're playing with a lot of concepts, but at the end of the day, we want to, I view this as maybe another type of Fort Pierce Industrial Park type of a use, and try and create some jobs and some industries for Washington City.
We have fire trucks that we have parked in some of our buildings. You get that, become an active cab fire truck. We call them, we roll out.
The autonomous ones?
They can roll them, yeah, they can roll out.
Yeah, it was just last weekend. I was racing my Lamborghini down in. So here's your general plan as for that area, and you can see it's pretty much fits your annexation there. Now, the purplish, what other color is close to that? Is that, you know, anyway, the purplish area is industrial. The blue is business park. The darker reddish scarlet maroon is regional commercial, and then the red is community commercial. Now, the regional commercial, the general plan, and I'm just going right to what it says, the zones that are allowed in that. That one will be fairly easy. We can just say for regional, it calls out that the zone in that one is C2. Okay. The blue one for business park, and I don't know if you may want to help me. Is everybody okay with doing a business park zoning? Because I have one for that. Does that fit in what you think? Or do you want to? So you probably don't want to be business park. You'll be limited, and because it's kind of it's a light industrial. You probably want to do a commercial zone in there, and probably your C2 would be the safest. In the industrials, do you think light industrial or heavy industrial is going to be the desire, or both? One of them being different. The uses. Light industrials more contractor yards, light stuff. The heavy industrial is going to be more of your cabinet shops, your heavier uses.
You know,
Okay.
I'm a little confused because the item says that it's going to match the current master plan. Now I hear negotiations.
Well,
about
it is.
what we
It
were
is.
looking
No, it's not negotiating. You have to pick which one to the master plan. Our master plan says these are industrial zones. I'm just asking you to be specifically which one are you going to tag it to?
at. Okay.
Because we're creating not just general plan zoning, we're creating actual.
No, the
zoning.
general plan's designated, but you have the opportunity at this point during the annexation process to zone it.
To zoning. That's
You
what I was
you
asking.
can leave it, but it's just easier to zone it now. And if they want to change it later, then they have to go through what anybody else
Okay,
would.
But if we don't zone it
have
now-
that zoning plan on here.
Well, this is your general plan tells you, in essence, it designates the areas. I'm just asking you to be a little more specific of which one of those you're going to put on that colored property. So the purplish area is designated for industrial, but in my industrial, on your general plan says industrial, I have two industrial zones. I have a light industrial and a heavy industrial. And I'm just asking you, the maroonish color is, there's only one offered in the general plan. It's C2. And it sounds like the blue, we want to do C2 as well.
I think that's fine, but I don't think we're here to make those choices. But if you come back with a recommendation and we could approve the annexation, and then you can come back with recommendations for zoning.
I'd like to add on with Councilwoman Granger in saying that maybe there's not enough input or time to distinguish into those classifications from where it is right now. That's just something that just needs to come back when it has been fully vetted to the intent of those.
Yeah, it's not part of this motion, is what I'm trying to say. So let's deal with the motion and then come back with the specifics if you have that.
It is, I guess it is in the public hearing process, right? Yes, it is part of the motion, just to match the current master plan, the zoning. So really all it does is it brings it in zone rather than requiring the applicant to come back through the zoning process. So it's.
Because if you don't do it now,
So
if you don't
Yeah.
do it now, then they have to go through that whole zone.
Right.
So hearing this now is it zoned? Because I'm hearing our manager, our man here saying, look, it's zoned, yes, but we have within that two zones, two types, or three. Right, and so as a council with it fitting with our general plan, is this sufficient to bring it in as it is?
Yeah. See, I'm not asking you to go from agricultural to give
Right,
it a.
No.
I'm just saying here, the council, I
Within
need
this-
to be specific, because if I go and put that on, then that's putting that burden on my shoulder, or,
One of the I-1, which is the lighter of the two, and if they want to upgrade to go to a heavier industrial, they have to cross it. So you're taking the safest route.
Because it is that type of zoning, but you're going with the lowest type.
So you're taking the lighter of the two, so okay, go with lighter two. If you need something heavier,
So within these zones, is it within your feeling to go with the lightest zone, the lightest?
I don't mind if we
Within it.
go with the heaviest. I just didn't realize we were sitting here tonight and argue about zoning or discussing.
So that's my question to the council is, should we take staff input at this point and go with staff input of how they see it? Or do we have them come back later and say, okay, this is how we'd like it to be, and in a different meeting? To Councilman
yeah,
Granger.
because I can make it real easy for you. I would say that the maroon and the blue C2. On the reddish color, give it C3 because there's a interchange right there. Let that be, C3 is your highest end commercial. Okay. The purple ones, I think you both had a point. I think Councilman Turkey said, go to the heavy one, or if they can come back, or you start from here and go, I'd start up. And because the I2 covers everything in the I1. It's just, a lot of those things you can put in there, most of them are in there.
Yeah.
Or give one of them, yeah. And I'd look at it and say, well, which one, if I was going to give I2, which one of those two would I make I2? I'd probably do the I1 close to the airport, or make that the I2.
You see, my feeling with what you're saying is this is Pandora's box. If there's anywhere you open it in our city, I think that with the aggression.
Right, but like I brought up the last time we talked about an industrial, we haven't done a lot of industrial, and I'm not sure we've really muscled up our code to make sure we are fully protected. I'm kind of your way.
Safer.
I kind of feel the same way. And it sounds like they're going to move this stuff around anyways. We're going to be talking about zoning and probably with a proposal that's actually going to be, we can actually consider. I'd kind of like your point, shoot low. If we have to put zoning to it today, because I wasn't really fully prepared to study through all the zoning, and my guess is some of those lines were, whether they were arbitrarily set at the time, it's been so long, it's
Well, they
thing.
really weren't. This was kind of the regional
No,
plan.
I get
Yeah,
that
with
there
the
was some
airport.
thinking about it, but
Yeah.
it was long enough ago that you'd be hard pressed to come up with all the reasons we did what we did. Although you've done a nice job to point out many of them. Thank you.
That I came to point out. We did it in general, just plan up. Just like we had open space somewhere. We said, oh, that's gonna be a great place for whatever, commercial one, C1 one day. But if it's not C1 yet, somebody may look at it and still think, oh, but it's zoned. Somebody couldn't come in right now if we didn't designate an actual zone and build anything there, because they have to keep the zone approved for.
Yeah.
But I guess that's the risk you take, is that no matter what, you're not gonna get a conditional use permit unless it's not open space, I guess.
Would it be
It's not a zone right now.
would it be possible for us to approve the annexation with the intent, because it hasn't been clarified? Not that we're not willing to clarify it, but to clarify the intentions of what that would be more clearly and incorporate the zoning in the next meeting, even though we take on the annexation now.
Yeah.
Does it matter? Is it tomato
All
or
right.
tomato? What?
So if I can just jump up for just a second, just for the record, I don't have.
Trying to state your name.
She told me she knew who I was.
I think his name's
Troy Belliston. So a couple of things, just for the record, I don't have one nickel's ownership in this. I put it together for the homeowners to give, or the landowners to give me a hand, and so that we had something to kind of, pursue in that area of town. From our perspective, the heavier that we can go, the better, where we're pursuing a mega site. And correct me if I'm wrong, even though the general plan shows this at the application, it can be whatever the applicant wants. Is that correct? So it doesn't have to stick to the general plan. Once there, the applicant can come in at this point and say, hey, we want such and such a zoning. If it's granted, then it's granted. But just simply due to the mega site designation that we're pursuing, I think you want to be on your heavy industrial, you want to be on your regional commercial, and those heavier zones. So.
But that's if this project goes through as a mega site and it goes that way. There is the possibility that the landowner could just go and sell pieces off. And I think that's where the council gets a little bit nervous to say, I got nervous the last time I read our industrial, because it was stuff that our city hasn't really, there's aspects of that I don't think we've ever really had to deal with. And I'm a little nervous about putting them out there where that can maybe run away with us. It's a good place to do it. If any place in your city,
Great
But-
place to do manufacturing. It's a great place to bring in large scale businesses. I don't think you're going to see anything residential or small scale down there.
Right.
You might have some support businesses that you might have a fuel station or fuel depot. You might have, some restaurants for people out there, but I think it's all going to be your larger businesses, much like Fort Pierce is.
But
So-
I guess that's just my fear is that you put this straight zoning out there and somebody goes and sells it and you get SOBs out there that you didn't want, and you don't have the ability. What's that accent? Sexually oriented businesses. I don't know which one was worse to say.
Wouldn't be the first
acronym or
time.
they should at least have a better, or somebody, some type of a chemical treatment plant that you're like, wait a second, it's legal because it fits the zoning. And now the city has no ability to say, it doesn't fit in because of other issues out there. I just have not had a chance to study through all those zonings to know all those issues. And I don't think the city has either, because we just haven't dealt with it. So
I'm fine if you guys want to take a 2-week look at it and look at that and have staff look at it on how to kind of carve up the zoning. That's fine. I'm just saying, from an applicant's perspective, if we're pursuing
but let's go.
EDC Utah
right.
coming in on that and designating that, you need to be able to have the
Right.
zoning in place for those businesses.
That's a
you're trying
good
to target.
point, but let's go back to that. So don't you think that the applicant's going to be coming to us with changes anyways? So really what we're trying to do is just kind of nod our heads and say, this is roughly what we think. Chances are you're going to be changing it through a zoning process.
I think it makes,
It's easier for them to.
I
get
think,
together.
I think it makes it challenging when dealing with EDC Utah. If you've got a low designation zone to say, hey, we want $1 billion investment down here. And they look at that and say,
Why
no, you
can't
don't.
we
Your
do-
city council doesn't want it because that's what they put
Why
here.
can't we do a PUD? Commercial.
We can, and I think,
I mean, we do have some, it's not like we've got neighbors we need to please with heavy commercial. We actually need a place in our city where we can do heavy commercial. I think where we can protect surrounding people from whatever that is, we need it. But there is some dialogue going on about how do we manage that as a city. If we give it the zoning rather than the PUD designation, then we really have no look at it at all.
I think PD commercial in this sense, where you're kind of in a raw area, makes it a little bit more challenging. PD commercial makes a lot of sense when you're in close proximity to homes and impact of people, where this is so far out and it's out, by an airport area that is already designated industrial over off the airport road.
It's not so much the homes that I think we're concerned about, but it's just the council input as it develops. The PUD allows us to have more of a say.
The council's gonna have input as it develops out through the application process and plats and things like that. But
Well, it will, but if it's straight zoning and they want to sell it to somebody with, you've already set the zoning. You've basically given them license to come in with whatever fits that zoning that's designated there. And the last time we looked at the zoning for industrial, there were aspects of that made me feel uncomfortable.
The only thing that I struggle with on this is that I was hoping to see something more clarified in the zoning, and it just feels like there's a whole lot that's not been clarified in this initial adopting of zoning. There's a lot of concerns that various council have brought up. I am all for improving it, like incorporating this, but maybe it just needs a little bit more clarification to be presented to the council at this initial part.
Well, but to be fair, they're trying to sell concepts. So some of those specifics they're not going to be there until you land them. So I mean, I get his point. He's wanting to sell as big of a concept as he can to try and to draw them in.
just the
It's hard, well, it's a little harder to sell.
just the entitlement process. I mean, we could. I would rather see it open space than to have low designation commercial, to be honest with you.
You mentioned you're
Mhm.
gonna be now some of those make a lot of common sense around intersections.
I think we we were discussing getting away from open space and going to not yet zoned.
We
That makes
did.
more sense than open space.
Yeah, it's our
Not
language,
yet
and that is
zoned.
the
Oh,
preferred
okay.
language.
Just
But
because you know how it is. Open space, they think that it's going to be a park or never developed or.
So if we
wide open.
did that with not yet zoned, it would still retain the general plan designations that are there currently, right?
well, it looks
Through
like
the
we're not
annexation
yet
process.
zoned.
Well, the issue is I don't have a yet to be determined zoning.
Given, yeah, so it's still open space.
So how do
I see.
Do we even have general plan on this? Because it's not, I understand, but it's already general plan, even though it's not even part of our city.
Yeah, we can the state allows cities to general plan outside in their annexation area. So
Okay.
we tackled this years ago, we moved the annexation policy plan, we signed it then, we have a few other places that we saying, we've given them generally what we thought we liked, the city. This has been, this is it. I mean, that's what's on the screen. I don't have a yet to be determined zoning.
There you
It's either open space, which I don't think is helpful.
It's
Because
it's
just with a
harmful.
process, everybody says, and you always get, even if you explain it till you're blue in the face, they always think you jump from open space to industrial.
But let's-
And that's as far of in the zoning world, that's going from the farmstead.
Well, then let's get you that zoning designation, because that is what we mean, and we've run into it before.
Yeah, put that on there.
So let's move on that.
One thing, I guess my final thoughts on this is that the staff has put in significant time talking about the zoning. There are some concerns that we have knowing that this is something that we can change and alter. I feel it hard for the staff to ask us right now, is this okay, C2, is this okay? That's where I'm struggling the most with this.
I think it's always, this area down by the airport has always been forecasted for big business.
And that's not a
So-
disagreement at all. I completely agree with that. But it just kind of hit us blindsided of having enough of an understanding to say one way or another on this. And that's the biggest division here is not that we're completely for the concepts proposed, but it's neither one of us feel fully able to say, okay, that one, and a burger and fries.
Well, here's the problem is under 9A item, we have really two considerations rather than just one. One consideration is to prove they are extending the corporate limits of Washington City. The other is to zone the property to match the current master plan, of which we lack some specifics. Okay, so it looks like in one motion, we have two specifics. And I think we're asking for a little more.
So
specifics
maybe
in
as
the
a
request.
consideration, you could look at the annexation piece separately and move on that.
I'm thinking.
And then just for direction to staff and come back a little bit later. I don't know.
Do it on the same night.
They do the same night.
Close it and then I have to get it, then it'll automatically fall back to open space by state law.
So we do have
So
some
then it have to be its own
inability.
change. So
Can we please table the ordinance?
Well,
until
here, let me-
2 weeks?
Let me propose this and see what they think, because
I need to keep them together for the.
that's
Okay,
fine.
that's where we're hearing.
And that's,
Okay.
after talking to the applicant, staff's fine with it. We just propose that all of it be C3 zoning. If the council's okay with that. And then if they want to or need to change it, they can come back because again, they can fit in these areas. And as long as they're asking for an industrial, that's the areas they know they're limited to. Because the general plan is still going to say that we're not changing the general plan tonight. We're just zoning this piece that you're bringing into the city. Your general plan is still here. We can still zone it. And those are close enough in there because again, C3 is right below industrial. And so I don't think we've gone crossing too many lines if we just do the whole area. And then if they have somebody come that says, hey, I want to do this, they can look at the purple and say, here's what it is. And I'm going to go to the city council and ask for my I-1 or I-2 or business
I don't
card.
mind extending more latitude than that and saying rezone it all C2. It's the C1 designation. I think we're wanting a little more clarity
Well,
ourselves.
C1 in this area, I wouldn't, I wouldn't do C1 in here at all because it's already C2 and C3 on your general plan.
Right.
If it was neighborhood commercial, then I'm fine with you folks saying, let's just do it all C1 and then work our way up.
But we're
But
not doing
right
that in
now,
this
it's
area.
C2 and C3, so I would just say,
So in
because
C-
of the industrial and all that, we just do the whole
Because it
C3.
just feels heavy industrial, C3.
Yeah, it goes heavy, light, business park, C3.
Oh, okay.
And business park's kind of one of those weird ones and you don't see them down here a lot. You go to Salt Lake outside the airport, and you see lots of those business parks.
Okay.
They're the really nice places with the hotels mixed in. Then they have research and development. You know, that's what a business park is R&D.
So
And
with-
there's a lot of companies that we don't have anybody doing R&D
Well,
down here.
if we go C2, and it sounds like a good plan, I think we have some obligation to clarify that heavy industrial and through whatever issues we might have with that, and soon. Because we want to be encouraging this kind of development, not discouraging it.
Yeah, so that's why I say if we just C3 is what we'd like to see, and then we'll see what they come up with investors.
You couldn't even, that's one reason we didn't get very much funding from the economic development county. Have very much industrial, and almost its entire philosophy is based on industrial, you're bringing jobs and you're bringing added-on products in that produce economies. And to some extent, they like that too, but
Well, if our hesitation is because we don't have clarity, then we'd better get some clarity.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
All right. Are we-
Within that,
if I remake my motion.
I think that'd be great. Let's just, please do.
I'll withdraw that motion and make it. We approve the ordinance, extending Washington City Airport east annexation of property consistent with Thompson Way.
Okay, I have a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
Board, aye, and I hope that the staff doesn't feel like our deliberations doesn't mean we're not excited.
Very
This is some great work.
Likewise, within my vote, I'd like to vote. I know that a lot have gone into this. It just caught us unprepared of fully supporting what was been proposed today. So Clough, aye.
Granger, aye.
All right. Thank you all. Temporary use permit, allow the closure of 100 South between 100 East and 200 East for a neighborhood block party. Any discussion on that?
I'm looking forward to that.
Do we require a neighborhood block party to have fireworks?
Does this involve?
This
our-
one.
Well, they're not requesting
No.
RAP funds.
Have you heard why the fireworks are there? The mayor's project.
Yes.
And it's a hallelujah.
Yes. Well, we're there. They did, all the final preparations are done, so. It's time for me to go out of town.
Is there a police presence necessary for these kind of closures?
No, last time we had one, we didn't, so.
Yeah, I just want to let you know, whenever streets are closed, really staff doesn't have that. And I don't want it to be on Mike's head or my shoulders or the police, anybody's shoulders, just that the only people who can technically close streets are you folks. That's why when we have parades, you do that. And I just felt like, just to be safe for everybody involved appropriately, we just need to have you officially on that time. You have a copy of her request, the applicant. She was fine with it. She goes, well, I didn't have to do that last time. I said, yeah, but I can't remember last time.
Well, last time, somebody other than her that's sitting right here kind of just did it. Yeah.
Executive order.
And then our former chief kind of pulled me aside and said, you better do it the right way, so.
So this is, just to be clear on the block area, it's Nielsen Drive is included in this as well?
What's that?
Is Nielsen Drive is included in this?
But what they'll do is they'll just close off Nielsen Drive at 100 South, so the people that, they won't close off at Telegraph. She wanted to go clear to Telegraph, close that off, but we can't.
So Nielsen Drive will be open down to 100 South.
And so it looks like it's just 100 South between 1 East and
200
2
East,
East.
yeah.
And I think the specialized barricades used last time were city waste containers.
Yeah.
So,
With yellow caution
yellow
tape.
caution tape.
Well, they weren't city containers, they were county waste
forgive me,
containers.
they were amazing.
We want to make sure they get their credit where credit is due.
We did.
I like it. I just think
Come on down.
I think it's fun to see people, yeah, rubbing shoulders in the streets. Yeah.
And the lady who's organizing it does a good job of pulling the entire block and then some into this. So it is very fun to let the community get to know each other a little bit.
And she seems like a fun person probably to be around from every once in a while. Quite a good personality.
Yeah. So I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, if we can, I make a motion to approve the mayor's recommendation. Oh, wow, sorry, wrong one. I make the motion to approve the temporary use permit to allow the closure of 100 South between 100 East and 200 East for a neighborhood block party.
Second.
And just to be clear, there was nothing in your motion about fireworks, I guess.
Nope.
Okay.
Well, there will be bat watching.
That's right, the bats.
8:30 at night. There'll be
It is
bat
amazing.
watching.
If you want to see something that makes
Three
you
different species of bats
come popping out of the old Covington
come out of the
National,
old house.
like a
Say in
cloud.
or out of the
I
house.
hope I hope someone during your party will bring up the Latin name for each of those three bats. Ward eye.
Clef eye.
Granger, aye.
Bellis and I.
All right. Item 11, Power Board, consideration for approval of the mayor's recommendation to appoint two. Actually, we're going to need to appoint three, but two tonight. Members of the Power Board, we had two that did not want to re-up, so Roger Bundy and Bob Sandberg want to do other things. And so I would like to recommend Todd Spriggs and Randy Meyer to serve on the Power Board. I don't know if you know any of those two
I know
gentlemen.
Todd, I think he'll be great.
Wow. I don't know Randy Meyer.
Randy's, he works for Ryan Hershey in the roofing. He's partners with Ryan Hershey's roofing.
Mayor, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve your recommendation of Todd Sprigg and Randy Meyer
Right.
to the Power Board.
Second.
Motion and second.
Bellis and I.
Granger, aye.
Clef eye.
Ward eye.
Thank you. Awarded bid, item 12, consideration for awarded bid for the Buena Vista Debris Basin. Mike Shaw. You know what I forgot to, I apologize, I forgot to excuse city manager tonight. He was
We didn't
public
even
and-
miss him.
Oh, he was
I didn't
gone?
miss him, but
Thank you,
What's your
Mayor.
birthday party or what?
So the Buena Vista Basin, that is our second basin that we're responsible for constructing. We actually went out, it wasn't a formal bidding process. We did quotes on the project. We received 4 quotes. Interstate Rock gave us actually 2 quotes. Progressive Contracting, Gilbert Development, and JP Excavating. Our low bid on the project was JP Excavating, worked in our favor. He had a 2-week window that he needed something to do for his employees. So we got a very, very good bid on that. The high bid from Interstate Rock is if they couldn't sell the material, that was a cost to transport the export material back to their pit. So
So did they didn't revise it to say,
Well,
what if
they
we
did.
just
Their
stop
second-
plowing on site?
well, no, because that wasn't an
Oh, that's,
option.
okay, sorry, you got to.
That wasn't an option in the bid. We
Okay.
kind of worked a little bit of things out with Sitman, but JP Excavating, they actually have the dirt out of the basin sold. He's 90% sure that it's sold, but
To the airport, you think? Maybe?
I doubt it, not that material. But
This wasn't in our packets, right? We didn't have any documents on them.
yes, it's very, very, it's my attempt at doing a bid schedule for you, so. Yeah, it's the pricing's in there.
Now, I forget, did we go with the A or B option within the
was-
designation for that?
There was no A or B on the Buena
thinking
Vista
of the
Basin.
wrong
It's a
one?
full build. It's actually a larger excavation than the first phase of the Main Street.
Okay.
Main Street is 35,000 yards of material. This is 37,000 yards.
So this is not the smaller one that's further.
It is the smaller one when we get to full build.
Of the Main Street.
Oh,
Main Street will
Main Street.
increase.
Okay, thank you. I apologize. Keep trying to put.
Okay, so
make
sorry,
sure I was talking
just
about
to be
the same
clear,
thing.
as you were talking about this, you said this did not go out to a formal bid process.
It was not a formal bid, it was a quote. So what we will do is we'll reach out to contractors, request a bid from them. It's not an advertise, it's they submit the bids back to us. The bids don't go out to anybody else. So if it's under $120,000, we don't have to do a formal bid.
I see.
I didn't
Yeah,
know.
barely.
Yeah.
Now, the project itself will be a little bit more because we are supplying all the materials to be installed on the site, as well as the export of the excavation material. There is actually a royalty that we have to pay Sitla at 50 cents a yard. So there'll be about $18,000 to Sitla on the project. And there'll probably be around $5,000 in some of the piping and boxes that we pre-ordered. So yeah, this one, we kind of are on a time crunch because I want this one done by June.
Mayor, with that,
Well,
I'll
this,
go
you
ahead
think this will get done by June?
This will be done by June. I believe if we award tonight to Judd, he will probably have equipment in here before the weekend.
Can I ask where they're gonna traffic the dirt through?
Well, it's our project. We can tell them how to go. So,
So that's why I say, can I ask where they're gonna do it?
well, I don't, yeah, I have
'Cause you
no
don't know
idea
where
where
they're
he's
gonna
going
put
to
it.
haul it to.
Okay.
I would believe it's going to be out into the Washington Fields area.
Because dictating which road they go could potentially change your bid, right? Or-
Not necessarily. If they're going to 300 east from this side, it'd almost be 6s each. It might be a little bit longer to go down Washington Parkway, but.
Well, my
not
guess
a
is the Warm Springs detention's they're gonna go through Washington Parkway, and
Yeah, it's,
the Main Street, they'd try to go down Main.
right. In Main Street Basin, we are not exporting any material. We're actually stockpiling. We have the larger site for the complete basin. We're going to stockpile that material at that site until.
So in that case, it would be longer for them to go to Main Street and down from where they're gonna be doing the work, so. With that,
So
I'll
the
go ahead.
stock, so just the stockpiling the dirt out there, what would you be stockpiling the dirt at the Main Street for? Because you're not building that up, are you?
No, we're not. We just don't want to have to pay to haul it off right now. So when we go into the next phase of the Main Street Basin, which will be funded by the NRCS, we can let them cover the cost of moving the material.
Oh, I see.
And as well, there's on Sitla ground, it's a 50-cent royalty on the materials, no matter what.
With that,
I don't wanna make the
I-
motion.
I would move that we award the bid for the Buena Vista debris basin to JP Excavating for $117,500.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second.
Ward, aye.
Bluff eye.
Granger, aye.
Bellis and I.
All right, thank you, Mike. Item 13, agreement, consideration to approve an agreement for the sale and exchange of real property located approximately 950 East Indian Springs Drive. Councilman Starkey. Council Starkey.
So this is taking, basically the farm that I created for another project. Folsom City Lane, kind of the same circumstances. In this case, typically negotiation doesn't go on for 8 or some year. Some of this has been, it's gone a long time. I think, having said that, the ability to kind of focus it back into two things, and that is the city council, we had the extra piece of land, for the record what we had was, we needed to go through the process of obtaining some land out by the road. Yeah, to put it, finish it out, the developer wasn't able to. City began the condemnation process, then entered into a settlement agreement with Whitefield for their land that the city needed up there to complete the driveway. As part of that, about a 1.5, ends up being 1.14 because now it has curb gutter sidewalk on it. Kind of a leftover piece on the other side of the roadway, but because we were making tenants, they certainly had the right to say, we can't do anything with that. So if we're not gonna have a rodeo, we can't be bringing our horses over there. So the city picked it up even though we knew we didn't need it. their situation was such that they own a piece of land, of course, 1 3 acre parcel of land, right adjacent, really kind of the access point for Snapshot. Access to Snapshot point. Otherwise, because it's private land, there's an issue of whether or not there'd ever be a staging area there and what BLM may do with it. That being said, that city council over the years, or that would be an idea which would be beneficial to the citizens. So just under your authority as city council for looking at the general welfare benefit of the citizens. And that was negotiated in a way that we could pick that land up as well as get the fair market value. Fair market value is what we need to get, what we certainly always try to get in the city, so, because it doesn't seem as if there's any meet our deals in it. The appraisal, so we have a relatively recent appraisal for our land, the 1.14 acres, came out to be about $170,000. Because it's really difficult, what we found over the years is really nobody's gonna give an appraisal on just that little parcel, which is really an access point. Nobody's really giving an appraisal, so folks, well, I mean, you pay anybody to give an appraisal, but nobody actually recognizes that appraisal. And so I think what this council did, and Mr. and Mr. Patrick got back from a tour they made out on the East Coast for a while, was to, when they brought it back forward, this council thought the best suggestion, being fair, was, how do we just take the square foot value, we both accept the square foot value of what the appraisal is, that would be fair to offset it against that, at least it makes sense as far as that goes. We have an offset, so we have $170,000, we have about a square foot price of about $3.4445, as I recall.
You want me to do the math?
Who sings it off of his head right like that, based on the appraisal. And with the 0.13, deducting that, which is 19,000 something, we come up with 151,056 for it. And that would be the transaction. From the standpoint of support for just the community, you had a reason to get rid of surplus property, you're obtaining something to the benefit of the citizens. Why you did it, so.
So in a nutshell, the math all works and we're happy. Staff's happy.
Yeah, now, what we do have is because we wanted, because we've got them back in the East Coast, the transactions, where it could stop at, where we can finish it out. There's some open provisions we may have to do because it's just complicated with piece of property over there in terms of just a number of things. What I've drafted this into is leaving it open that they may find some things that we find in the updated town report that we want to have taken care of, that will be put into what has been mutually agreed upon closing statement that we work out with the escrow agent. But otherwise, everything else is right there.
So, but
It is ready.
basically, in a nutshell, the 151,056.78 is the purchase of the lot with the credit for the deed on the other property, and it's clean, the math works. I'll go ahead.
Just one question, what about closing costs? Who's gonna bear the?
Closing costs on that will be minimal. Typically, each side bears the closing costs.
And I kind of drafted it in there to the extent that, here's typically how we do it, this is because these are odd pieces of land, we pick it up basically by a condemnation, that we sold, that we declared it surplus and we're selling it. I'm not quite sure how, Ken Barber got there, but it's been a goofy piece of land anyway, so here typically what I suggest we do, this is how we did it, that was, if you want title for your property, you want a title report for your property and insurance, yes. Property you're picking up, you pay the price for it.
What title company do we use?
That's what I've used for 30 years.
Can I ask the applicant, is it cash? Ken? Is it a cash deal? Well, because if there's a loan, it's different than if it's a cash deal.
Okay. So I'll make a motion that we
Well, so
approve an
just
agreement.
clarification, sorry, because, but so the 151,000 roughly is what is paid to the city.
That's the-
What was the?
That's the gross revenue.
The gross revenue. What was the property? What are we purchasing the property for? What was the value that we decided on the property up at Schnabkai?
No, this is after they figured that square footage.
No, I understand that bottom line total. I just didn't catch the value of what was decided. Just the value though. What was the dollar amount?
I'll tell you in just a second.
Oh, 19,000, like 19,000 something, but it's $3.4445 per square foot, based on the .13. Yeah. It's like, it's easier to do the math.
Okay, per square foot for that.
Yeah.
For those, and
Taking that
right.
minus
What the appraisal came in at.
But everybody was thrilled with it, a lot of your side, that's kind of the way you like it. We'd like it higher, Kim would like it lower.
So are you okay with the motion now? Okay.
We just directed that nothing material changed in terms of this. We'll move it to closing as fast as we can, I just don't know how quickly the staff company can get done work on.
I'm not gonna change anything in this, but I'm gonna put a couple of things in the motion.
No, you don't need to either.
Okay. That we approve an agreement for the sale and exchange of real property located approximately 950 East Indian Springs Drive. That Southern Utah Title is the title company, and that both parties bear their own closing costs.
I have a motion and a second.
Ward eye.
Clough, aye.
Ranger, I.
Dallas and I.
All right, that's approved. Okay. Anything to report from?
Thanks for getting dragged in that late.
Yeah, thanks, Cam, for your patience. Item 14, anything to report from your assigned committees?
Just, I keep going to meetings on the Northern Corridor and mayor up to date on that. We'll be having some meetings with St. George, at least a meeting.
Nothing from a signed committee, but we had the Utah Food Bank here a couple of weeks ago. Their, I guess, inaugural visit to Washington City will be tomorrow between 11 and.
Oh, that's tomorrow.
So are we as officials and staff? Are we looking for?
Yeah, if anybody would be available to go, I'm planning on going.
I'll be there around
I'm on
11.
Come on down.
Oh, so they're not collecting good, it's working.
And we're gonna help distribute to those that show up.
They give it out.
Make it less. Yeah.
So are they going to do a little bit of a grand opening kind of a thing?
I
Or probably
assume
pretty
so,
low
though I
key
don't know
maybe?
what it is. I mean, certainly anybody on the council and the mayor would love to have you there. I think our economic development director is gonna be there because he's had kind of a history with that organization. And we appreciate the fact that they're coming to help serve our community, so.
Okay, give me the times on that again.
11 to 1. They're gonna be there about 30 minutes prior to set up, so 10:30. But, if your schedule doesn't allow, if you wanna come at any portion of it, please do.
Thank you.
It is also this week, League of Cities and Towns. I don't know if any of you signed up to go.
Yeah, I did. I'll be out there.
Good.
Be in Salt Lake.
And, yeah. And
Those probably have to coordinate, because a couple of them, they're good ones, and I want to coordinate, especially at that time tomorrow's meeting, some of those breakups.
I think it's just me. Is there anybody else going?
I'm going.
Or are you going?
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
be there tomorrow. Then I'm gonna break off for a little bit, come over there, and then go back.
We can double up with the beer.
Okay.
I have
Nothing
to
else?
report.
We're gonna forego the city manager report, and we're gonna move on to item 16. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Tonight.
Second. Yes.
Aye.
Thank you all. So some pretty important